Proudly Phillips. They say the first sentence in any speech is always the hardest. Well, that's what's behind me anyway. But I have a feeling that the sentences to come, third, the sixth, the 10th, and so on, up to the final line, will be just as hard. Since I'm supposed to give a commencement speech about us, the class of 2014. I've said very little on the subject, next to nothing in fact. Whenever I have said anything, I've always had the sneaking suspicion that it hasn't been very good. That's why this speech will be rather short. All imperfection is easier to tolerate if served up in small doses. I should probably start by defining commencement, because when I started writing this, I had no idea what it meant. I also never used a dictionary, so here goes nothing. Commencement is made of two words, common and cement. When I realized this, I was really lost. I know nothing about cement, except that it is commonly used in sidewalks. That led me to my next conclusion, one that actually makes sense. Life's like a road that you travel on, when there's one day here and the next day gone. Sometimes you bend, sometimes you stand, sometimes you turn your back to the wind. Life is a highway, and I want to ride it all night long. But before you can ride, you must walk. And nobody wants to walk in the street. So that's what the sidewalk is for. High school has been our sidewalk. I was actually going somewhere intelligent. High school has been a challenge, and struggling over those universal trials and tribulations help bring us all closer together, as well as discover those who are the most cynical and sarcastic in our class. We discovered that there are two main categories of students. There are those who are always prepared, get their work done days ahead of time, and are ready for anything, no matter what. But to quote Newton, for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. And for those of you who, like me, fell into the second group, we knew the struggle, and the struggle was real. However, we were all students, and we all shared the experience that was high school. We complained, ignored sleep, complained, did massive amounts of work, and then complained some more. But at the end of the day, we were two things. First, we were tired. Second, and more importantly, we had tried. Sometimes we failed, but really, who hasn't? We learn from our mistakes, and that is why we are all here today. We are wearing these graduation robes that are themselves a statement of how hard we worked ourselves. We worked for so hard and for so long, we forgot how to dress properly to go out in public. But all joking aside, we've earned this. We sat in class for 4 long years to get to this point. We had our high points, and we also had our low ones. Sometimes everything just worked out, other times nothing came together. Thankfully, we had each other. When one of us was having a rough time, our peers were there for us. All for one and one for all, right? When one of us decided to procrastinate, we all decided to, and then regretted it the next day. That's why I took the liberty of making up a few goals for us as a class to follow in our future paths. These are kind of tough though, so they aren't so much goals as challenges. My first challenge to you is to not procrastinate. You've probably heard these words and will most likely ignore them as you have in the past, but trust me when I say this is a bad idea. High school is like a conveyor belt. Missing one thing wasn't the end of the world, but it set you back. And as soon as you fell behind, it could be very difficult to catch back up, especially as that machine accelerated near that May testing season. Trust me when I say we've pretty much all been there, but it is a habit you should try and break. As much fun as it was to bond over a last-minute study session at 2 a.m., it wore off pretty quickly. If high school was our sidewalk, where we could take our time on a leisurely stroll, how bad do you think procrastination could be when going 65 miles per hour? And who am I kidding? We're all speeding anyway. So don't procrastinate if you want to succeed. My second challenge is to learn. As unnecessary as this statement may seem, you'd be surprised how many people only learn and memorize for the test, and then they forget it by the AP or IB at the end of the year. Learn it now, and you should remember it later. Here are a few basic mistakes teachers have pointed out to us seniors as learning examples over the years, so make sure to write these down in case you don't already know them. And yes, these were actual mistakes that I've been told about. 1, the Renaissance happened in Europe. 2, the Allies won World War II. 3, be able to name 2 groups in the French and Indian War. 4, know what a commencement speech is before deciding to give it. 5, be able to spell commencement. Make sure to always cite your work. And that is why don't plagiarize is my third challenge to all. It is wrong, and no matter what is making you think of doing it, it isn't worth it. Now that I think about it, I should probably give Ms. Kreider credit for introducing us to Winslow Szymborska, seeing as most of the intro to this speech was taken from her Nobel laureate. I also used YouTube heavily, but there wasn't a button I could find to cite that for me on EasyBit. Number 4, be prepared. High school is a tough program, but life in general can be tougher. We learned the basics here, so it's important we not forget what we learned, unless we want to go through this all over again. Examine everything. Examine your interests and examine the classes you want to take. Examine your exams, and just examine life in general. If you're prepared, you'll know what to do, so never take advice from anyone. And challenge number 5, my final piece of advice for you. Have fun. Take your education seriously, but also enjoy your classes, friends, teachers, and the future in general. Some of my best class memories were times when it paid not to be too serious. I almost wanted to say my best class memories were actually from class, but I realized if taking tests and filling out Scantrons was the highlight of my experience, I might want to reevaluate that. Instead, focus on what interests you, be it math, science, history, English, or in my case, cracking jokes and making unfortunately corny puns in public. And enjoy it. For you English people out there, if any of you get the poem Shore Woman by Seamus Heaney during a group discussion in English, mention the author's porpoise. It's about dolphins. What seems like a jury speech being read to you by someone you barely know is actually fun to write, simply because all of the inside jokes and references that I hope many of you have been laughing at. And now that I've mentioned my author's porpoise comment from last year, I'm sure everyone who knows me can tell I'm running out of things to say, and they're dreading the moment I start cracking other puns up here. Well, before this escalates, I'm just going to wish you all the best of luck, and thank you for sitting through this speech. Actually, I want to end on this note. Whatever comes next, we are ready. We can do it. And if we find a challenge, even better, for the simple reason that it will drive us to those around us for help. Just remember, we started from the bottom, now we're here.
Thank you, Bradley, for leaving us with both a laugh and a challenge. At this time,